Warning, the video contains flickering scenes. If you have photosensitive epilepsy, maybe this one's not for you, sorry. So in this video, I will show you how I made my SpaceTransit project in about 50 hours, a bit more than that. But moral of the story, don't stay up from Sunday 8 a.m. to Monday 6 a.m. to try to get the project in a good enough state and then end up not implementing a lot of features because you just don't have the time. Yeah. Anyways, this is a kind of a spaceship simulator, train simulator. I like trains. Yeah. Anyways, so ships are kind of like trains, but in space, and they travel in tubes. Like the tubes are tracks, pretty much. So this is not my first project making, what is it, kötött pályás közlekedés, so fixed path transit. But I started from scratch because I'm like, I just wanted to get this done. So in the span of a week, I spent a lot of time working on this project. Maybe more time than I should have, but oh well. Yeah, I'm just gathering B-roll as I'm yapping. So first you can notice the grain. I have no clue how to turn it off. Okay, I have it disabled. And yes, I'm using Unity engine. Crazy, I know, kill me for it. But if you go into sample scene volume, you can see that the film grain is turned off. And guess what? There's grain. So I don't know. You can play it. The link is in the description, but there are far less features than I was planning to make. For now, I will update the project sometime, but I'm a bit burnt out and I'm tired because it's Tuesday right now, but I'm still tired even after sleeping 10 hours this night. Yeah. So we have a world. First off, it's 0.1 scale because we have big numbers, really big numbers. Basically, it's there are fixed lines. Oops, if you go here and we zoom out even more, you can see that this is line 1. This is a lot of numbers, a lot of big numbers. Yeah, I explained that so well. But there are some stations that are just there, but I haven't connected in because I didn't have the time for it. So basically what happens, there you can toggle between auto mode, automatic driving, and manual driving. Yeah, I don't know what I was going to say. So we have the initial station yard, and we go to Pestadov South. I wanted a lot more stations. I have 92 stations planned, but I couldn't. I didn't have the time to make it. So yeah. But let's get into some technical details. First off, I'm using spline mesh, a Unity package, to make splines. So instead of modeling all these by hand, which is a bonkers idea, I just draw some splines, and then spline mesh will generate the mesh for me. Really cool. The frames are pretty good, actually. Like, I should just show the stats, but oh my god, okay. Like in my build, at least, like in the editor, there are 60 to 72 frames per second, which is decent. Actually, I'm just gonna demonstrate it right now. I'm not gonna edit this video because I don't feel like it. So if I frick something up, well, That's sad. But anyway, we have a very basic menu that I wanted to improve. But again, I was rushing and I was panicking at like 4 a.m. Like I just wanted to get this done by 6. So yeah. We have a time scale slider, so you can just speed up time. But yeah. Basically the ships were inspired by Stadler trains. I love Stadler. Literally best company ever. You can't tell me otherwise. We have smile, wink, flirt, kiss, and fart. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, Stadler has, not we, because I'm not working at Stadler. But yeah. So this is a flash ship, a fast, light, advanced space hauler. And you can already see some funky stuff happening because of float precision. Yeah, even after scaling the world down by 10x, it's not very good. Welcome aboard the ship to Amsterdam South. Please keep in mind that smoking is prohibited on the ship. We wish you a pleasant journey. Next stop, the art factory. Yeah. So, Ross ship, very cool, very nice. You can't open the door while the ship is moving. There are 5 states. 6. Docked, waiting for departure, lifting off, sailing, so crazy, and landing. And the ship can only move while it's in sailing mode, which kind of makes sense. I can't control the ship right now because it's in automatic mode. And once we get to a station, I can toggle it, disable it, or enable it. So, yeah, there are many stations. Much fewer than I wanted, but for now we have, what's that? 15, 16 stations. Yeah. So many of the things were inspired and are kind of based on real world stuff. The ship, the name of the ship is a bit inspired by Stadler Flirt, fast, light, innovative regional train. I love flirting. And I mean taking a Stadler Flirt train. Yeah. So each station has its name based on a station in the real world. So if you can find them all, find the originals, good job, good luck. I'm not gonna spoil it, but the approach I took, the art factory, is just, I love it. Okay, there are some very funny station names like Bounty Pile and the Turkentine. I cooked with this one. If you figure out the method I used, like how I came up with these station names, also, Yard Factory has this issue where the door opens onto the dock plane and not the platform, because I forgot to flip the checkboxes when I refactored the docks. So like basically I added the second dock because I wanted it to be both ways, so I could do it back and forth. But as you can see, there's no button, no switch, no toggle to make the ship, sorry, go backwards. Oh, I didn't turn off auto mode, whatever. Let's just speed up. I don't allow values above 20. Next stop, Yard Saint. It would kind of go rogue. Yard Saint. Turn off auto mode. You can see the FPS. Actually, 80 to 90, 100 FPS. Of course, we're not moving right now, but Unity's renderer does some magic because Okay, let's look at the tubes. Not this one. Directing to Carpenter. You can see this mesh, this tube mesh. It has, where is it? 20 triangles. That's not bad, right? That's not horrible. And we have what? 1, 2, 3, 6, 12 times 2 faces. That seems pretty reasonable. But when you combine them into a really long tube that spans multiple kilometers, well, not the exact unit in Unity. Well, it is. This is real kilometers or meters here. It's just the world game object is scaled down. And what I thought of initially was to have these objects, like all of these, I mean like the parent objects, in the root of the scene, and then use scene manager, current scene, and get the root game objects and move them. Because what I do is when the player moves, or the ship moves, the ship the player is on, we as you can see, it's slightly changing. We move the world in the opposite direction. This was in an attempt to fix the flickering, but it's not exactly effective as far as you could tell. Yeah, I'm not gonna disable the world scaling because it's just not possible. I would need to change many things. Anyway, and when the ship moves as well, that changes the world position. So if we go over here and actually go to the player, you know what? No, I'm gonna show that later. Let's depart now. So you have to mark ready for departure, and then press this button to hover, and now you can't open the doors. It doesn't say next stop Carpenter yet because we haven't actually left the station. So once you scroll, you can change the speed. Very cool. Next stop, Carpenter. The stop announcements are automatic. You have to disable them. But yeah. I don't have a controls menu. I don't have a volume menu. I didn't have time for it. It's crazy. So if you see player, you can see the world shifting. Like I'm not moving hands. Now I am. Like, the world is going as the ship is going. So yeah, very cool. I might. No, this is fun. This is. The world is moving opposite. Is it? Is it? It might be moving in the wrong direction. That's so cool. Yeah. So we're going for speed limits in some places. There is going to be one somewhere around here. So the ship tells you the speed limit. Somewhere here. Oh, not yet. Okay, so the next segment is the map is divided into many tube segments. It would be horrible if it wasn't. So I used 300 samples, if I remember correctly, per spline segment. Yeah, math. It's a lot of math. I didn't write the spline mesh package, but I optimized it a little, so It isn't as horrible. I will go into the details of that. Oh boy, the frames were horrible. The frames were absolutely bonkers without the optimizations. So you can see even at 20x speed. Oh,
Carpenter.
I forgot I'm not an auto. Yeah, 60 to 70 frames per second, and now you can't go back, so I have to exit. I just go through the main menu. That was a Ross ship. Rapid optimized space shuttle. Well, sort of like comfortable, innovative, sprint capable. Stop it! So, comfortable, innovative, sprint capable suburban train. Why are you doing this? You should be going at different sprint capable. POV Unity. Anyway, here. Oh, that's right, because I don't reset the timescale when the scene loads. So here's like a tutorial, I guess. Very minimal, very basic, but it gets the job. It gets the job done. So you have to mark ready for departure, and then when the doors close, you can lift off. But you can't do that while the doors are open for obvious reasons. So lift off, and then we go. Orbital go. And then we can land again. And lift off again. After marking ready for departure. Yeah. So I recorded all of the sounds myself. So the recordings that I have are just because I made this project.
Welcome aboard the ship to Test B. Please keep in mind that smoking is prohibited on the ship. We wish you a pleasant journey. Next stop, Test B, where this ship terminates.
So I have many recordings, not necessarily voice recordings, but videos of trains arriving, departing. I like trains, as I said.
Test B, this ship terminates here. Thank you for choosing SpaceTransit. Goodbye.
And we stop. So I could use those as material, but it's not as easy. You just pick a video and you turn that into a recording, you just get the sound out of it. No, it has to match very high standards, for me at least. And we can just barely dock here. I misplaced this, but I'm not going to see yet. So, yeah, it takes a bit to load because calculating splines takes some time, but then generating the meshes takes a whole lot more. So yeah, basically the sounds have to be very isolated from other background noises. Like talking is fine because I can use a denoiser, vocalremover.org/next/ to be specific. I use that to separate the vocals or speech from the actual sounds I wanted. And even when I was recording outside, recording the announcements outside as I was recording a train, I was waiting for the train, so I might as well use the time to record, even if I can't really edit them well. So yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah. I denoised them and then took the noise part out of the train sounds and the voice part out of the announcements. So actually there were some recordings that overlapped, I think, a bit. So I had to use Audacity to mix them and only mute the specific sections with speech in them. Or like keep the sections that don't have speech in them, right? And I use a denoised part.
Welcome aboard the ship
I'm just gonna
to...
mute it. So the denoised part of the recording, and then if there's some speech in the recording. Wait, what am I saying? So we have the denoised part. Okay, that's fine. But there are some places where the actual sound bleeds into the vocal section, so that's separate. So in that case, I just used the original recording, and where there was speech, I used the denoised recording, which is probably better, like in general, because I get all the frequencies. Somehow the AI made it so the like very high frequencies maybe bleed into the vocal section, though I didn't see any. Like it's just completely muted, so that's fine. I might be just stupid. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna let this run in auto mode. Maybe a bit faster. Actually, no. Enjoy the noise. So, yeah, there were quite some challenges that I had to face, and I'm gonna talk about those as well. The stations, I did not model the stations in Blender. Also, it was not my first time using Blender, but I haven't really used Blender at all before.
Your art factory.
Because I just didn't really have a reason to use Blender, really. And I gotta be honest, it's kind of painful to use Blender. Don't worry, we stopped. Well, alright. We stopped before the end of the platform, so. The auto driver is cool. It respects the speed limits once it enters a tube with a speed limit, which arguably isn't that correct, but I found this as the easiest solution. And there are no signs of the speed limits, there are no signs of the stations, so you just have to remember. I'm sorry. And yes, this runs on the website. It allows you to play it. It's deployed on GitHub pages.
Next stop, Yard Saint.
So that was a bit to figure out to deploy it properly, because I have done a different project on GitHub pages, a Unity project, and it's actually not that horrible to do. But the main caveat is GitHub pages doesn't have enough space to build your Unity project, because GitHub Free has 500 megabytes of space per runner, and Pro, which I have, has 1 gigabyte. The template to the Unity project is 1.26 gigabytes. How is that possible? I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna make the volume of the desktop quieter so you can actually hear me talking. Yeah. So I had to use self-hosting. Basically, I just run it on WSL. And the fun fact, the Docker WSL integration, if you have Resource Saver enabled, will hang the entire WSL instance once it enters Resource Saver. So that's not very fun. And you can't really terminate it unless you open up a new command prompt and you terminate the distro, and then you cancel the command and then you terminate it again. Because the terminate command itself hangs. It's so funny.
yard saint.
If you paid really close attention, you could tell that this isn't the full like deceleration audio, like the full length deceleration audio of the Flirt. Well, Flash in our case. Oh, Flirt, that's the original, right? Basically, the ships in the game have a fixed deceleration and acceleration ratio, so
Next stop, Carpenter.
that doesn't give me a lot of flexibility. It makes it easier to implement ships. So Flash has an acceleration rate of 1.2 meters per second and deceleration of meters per second squared, sorry. Deceleration 1.3 meters per second squared, which is pretty high, but Flirts have this. Like, these are the max values, right? So we're in space, it's a game, it's magic, I can do whatever I want, okay? The tubes are magic, they automatically steer the ship. It's actually the ship following the tube, but whatever. Yeah. So max speed 50. The Flirts, like Stadler Flirt. I'm not sure which number is it. Let's just call it Flirt. Not Flirt 3, not Flirt 160, not Flirt Aku, not Flirt 200. Okay, not the newer generation Flirts. They have a max speed of 160 kilometers per hour. And 50 is a better number, right? So if I make this 160, yeah, it climbs the max speed divided by 3.6. 44.44, that's just ugly. So I made it like this. Okay. And we're gonna have to have a look at the audio. We have departure and arrival outside. Oh, I have to show this too. Yeah. This is really Schattisch thing. Yeah. So the arrival, these are just based on the speed. So we have a minimum and maximum. Minimum is exclusive. And we have the state. Basically what the target speed is compared to what the actual speed is. And on board we have departure, arrival, the fast traveling sound that you can hear right now, a semi-fast, which is like kind of in the middle, 15 to 35 meters per second, and a slow one, which is slow. I know, crazy. And then we have the announcer. So what the onboard audio does is it moves the audio source to the player when the player is on board. So it doesn't change the hierarchy. It just moves it to wherever the player is, and it moves the sources if the player goes outside of the ship. And then the outside audio, if the player is on board, it mutes the sources. If the player isn't, then it brings the source to the closest point on the bounce to the player. So if we go to the flash module, or the flash assembly, I'll just pause it for a second. You can see the entire assembly. So if it were here, it would find the point here. So basically per bit. Yeah, that happens too. Unity crashed a lot of times. I'm talking maybe 10 times per day while I was developing. And I just don't know why. Other people tell me that when upgrading from Unity 6 to Unity 6.2, it has become a lot more stable. You fucking twat. I'm gonna have to blur this information. Thank you for having a bug reporter that is insanely fucking annoying. I'm gonna do the blurring in YouTube because I'm not gonna export and edit this video in DaVinci. I should have said it the reverse way, but whatever. Can I just... And then no, you didn't make backups. You didn't do anything. Okay. The autosave is just laughable. I don't know how often it autosaves, but I didn't really get anything meaningful from autosave, which only applies to scenes and not prefabs. So yes, I did lose progress due to Unity crashing a crap ton of times. So, where were we? Audio. At this point, I'm just gonna launch it and show you the departure sound. I love it. It's so great. I'm very glad that I got that clip recorded. Can we... It's fucking... It's not taking the input. Ah! Why am I not using Godot? Like, why are you not using Godot? I don't know Godot, okay? I don't know Godot. I wanted to learn Godot, but I ended up not learning it because I was lazy. Not right now, but at some point. And I also heard that the C# support for Godot is even worse than it is in Unity. Like, what do you mean? You have to call the engine to do a dictionary lookup. What do you mean you have to call the engine to allocate the list? Hello? Okay. The input's just not okay. I'm just gonna restart Unity. Like, it's honestly stupid. Yeah, there's a reference map that I have excluded from the that I'm not gonna show because there's some information in the repository somewhere that leads you to it. But if you figure out what it's based on, what the game is based on, good job, I guess. Yeah. Because no, I'm not gonna come up with a map myself. Okay, I'm not that creative. Can we start, please? Also, the performance of Unity is sometimes sad. There we go. The input system magically works. You just have to restart the engine because sometimes it just doesn't feel like it. Yeah. I didn't even need to do that. It's a rusty spaceship, if you will. Let's go to Yard Factory and can I even call it fictional if it's based on a real world scene? Well, it's fictional enough that the names aren't actually real names. So this ship is there. Okay, I'm just gonna wait for this. I forgot to increase the volume, and I was yapping while my mic is whatever.
Next stop, Yard Saint.
Yeah, so I love these clips. Like, they're so cool. They're so satisfying to listen to. Okay. Let's what did I say? Yeah, I wanted to make a lot of stations. Of course, I severely underestimated the time it would take to build the scope that I wanted. Like, I wanted station announcements, I wanted departure boards, I wanted you to be able to go back with the ship, I wanted a route selector so you could choose where you're going. I wanted like an exit requester. I mean, technically that's part of waiting for departure, but for a fixed route, it's not that simple. It's like if you just wanted to drive the ship around the entire map, you would have needed the ability to choose which exit to take. So, yeah. I plan a lot of things. I plan to make an actual Ross ship model, but I ended up just recoloring and adding 2 more drillers to the Flash ship because I didn't have time. I thought I would have time to make the assembly, but I ended up not having the time for it, and I also didn't end up implementing multiple routes, like automatic routes, because I also didn't have time to make the line backwards properly. I didn't have time to make new timetables besides this one. Ship 1, I guess.
Yard Saint.
So, it's just honestly, I really needed a lot more time to make this project in the scope that I actually wanted it, and then to make it in the scope that I reduced in my mind. Yeah. Also, something's up with the thruster audio. And yes, there are thrusters. There are 2 types of thrusters. One is what actually moves the ship, and then the what am I saying? No. These things. Oh my god, Unity. These thrusters, which don't do anything currently. They don't have particles, they don't move. Again, I didn't have the time to implement them. Crazy. Yeah, this was made in Blender. And I don't want to blend again. It's a bit painful, not gonna lie. Yeah. So I have I have a separate blend file for the thruster. I have a ROS test, but it's
Next stop,
just the same as the Flash trailer. The ground room. I actually don't know what the difference is. I don't see any difference. Yeah. So moral of the story, I don't know Blender really well that I would be able to understand the workflow. I ended up just creating simple meshes like the cube, the sphere, the cylinder, and then merging them together via insane ways, and just using extrude and bisect a lot, which might not be how you would actually do it, but this was what I could gather. based on like a Blender documentation, and I watched maybe one Blender tutorial about how to convert transparent mesh into a format that, like the transparent material into a format that Unity would be able to read it. Like I wanted to paint the textures, right? Like I wanted to paint the ship so it wouldn't be very, very basic. But I didn't have time for it. Also, there are no seats. Something that I wanted, but again, I just didn't have time. So I ended up not painting textures. And the easier path was to just make a separate mesh for the windows and assign it a transparent material, because for some reason Unity just didn't like the transparency on the textures. Yeah. And I ended up joining parts of the mesh, like the actual ship body, the floor, the panel, you could call it a panel, and windows. Of course, the doors are separate, and these things were added in Unity because I needed a collider separately. Arguably, I could have added it to the actual mesh and just placed the collider manually, but I was not really paying attention to that. So you can see that this part has a black floor. Why is that? Why is it not using the default material like here? Because Blender joined the meshes wrong. Well, the materials, I don't know. The floor did not have a material assigned to it. And Blender decided, we're gonna make everything the same material. Even the windows, I think, had this black material, which is horrible. So I ended up not. Oops. Yeah, at high speeds, it's not exactly the best to transfer between modules, because yeah. Also, movement. I found this Unity discussion finding a workaround, I guess. So basically, I moved the ship in fixed update, which always runs before update if fixed update called in the first place. So this is for physics simulations, and you wouldn't otherwise use fixed update. But in this case, this is good because it works. Otherwise, the movement controller would just crap itself. Basically, that's thank you, Unity. That's actually very cool. And I'm in the correct mountable object. At this speed. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So basically, the built-in Unity character controller is capable of moving in the parent, but it only works properly if the parent moves in fixed update and you call the move function, the move method, in update, which is not very intuitive, but it's just how it works. Even if the moving object gets updated first, somehow the transform will not apply until like the end of fixed update or something. I'm not entirely sure, but if you were to move in update and the object you're on, the mountable, was also moving in update, then you wouldn't be moving with the parent. In a different project that I used this kind of mountable system, I had the same issue, but I only got to fix it with SpaceTransit because I just didn't have a solution. And yeah. What was I on about? So, yeah. So as the ship is moving, you will be moving in world space. And what I did for the workaround in the other project was to record the offset to the parent before moving and apply that in a late update. If you know Unity, that sounds horrible, but it's like semi-working. So I'm happy about that. Here it's like actually much better. Like you can actually move with the ship, which is nice, very nice indeed.
Carpenter.
So maybe you could tell like there was a bit of snapping. That's because the trigger, like the mountables, use the trigger system, which is physics. I didn't want to move the ships with physics because one, it's complicated. Two, this is a game I can do whatever I want. Okay, so yeah, that's because on trigger enter and on trigger exit gets called in fixed update, the physics simulation. So yeah, I don't even care to explain it anymore. I need to talk about other stuff. So yeah, movement was a bit of a headache to implement, and you can do this.
Next stop,
because
Apple Willow Upper.
I didn't feel like implementing like a clamping system for rotation. And yes, the player is just this. They're just a capsule. Okay, I'm not modding players. I even wanted to add like NPCs that board and get off. Am I crazy? Yes. Anyway, there's going to be a speed limit, so we'll see how the ship reacts. I'm gonna shut up for a second. For multiple seconds. Boom. Slow down. Oh, it's gonna be here. And there's this kind of narrow curve here that causes the speed limit to be here. If you can find where this is, perhaps to you, like in the real world, it's not that difficult if you know, like, if you already knew based on different like previous information where you're looking for. But I'm gonna drop some different hints later in the video that will let you figure out. Stuff, yeah. So you can see that the next segment has no speed limit. We're gonna exit this segment very soon. And then we're just gonna but that was gonna be the fun part. like a fun part of the tubes later. I keep saying tracks in my head, but they're no tracks. These are tubes. Yeah. Again, Stadler is goated. Like honestly, just if you're somehow like a transportation minister in some country watching this video, please buy Stadler trains. They're just better. Okay. Like maybe they're not the go-to for like high-speed transit, but if you want suburban rail, go for it. Okay, please. They're amazing. Anyways, we're gonna exit this segment. I think right there. I just clicked to show. Okay. Yeah, there we go. That was a bit earlier actually. So. Making the tubes was a pretty straightforward process. I just used a map and basically drew the splines. It's not as simple as you would think of drawing, right? Because you have the map and then you gotta place the point and drag the spline like anchor points that keep the curves to make the curves. I know it's really makes sense, but because the splines, like the segments, and what? So if I were to combine the segments between stations, they would be very, very, very long, and it would not be precise. I'm talking tens, maybe, okay, not tens, but up to maybe like 20 kilometers between two stations, which is a lot. And from a floating point perspective, it's not very good. A floating point, as in float, 32-bit float, which is not exactly precise. And if you move something, I'm just gonna show it to like 100,000, it really outlies you. Because floating point precision is actually horrible. I've heard that some newer version of Unreal Engine has double support, or like it just uses doubles straight up everywhere, which sounds really cool. But I'm using Unity Engine because that's what I know, and I'm not gonna touch Blueprints. I'm not gonna touch C++. Okay, I like C#. C# is a very great language in my opinion. If you don't like OOP, well, sucks to be you. Honestly, OOP has its pitfalls, but I'm just really used to C#. Not in a completely OOP way. Like think records. I like records. Records are pretty cool. I can just declare variables and then the compiler generates the quality members for me. I don't have to do any work with that. We're at Apple Middle Upper. Yeah. So we're going to be departing at 52. And you can see the tube is going downwards. Like, what the hell is this? Basically, I didn't want very overlapping tubes. Like, I wouldn't want it to go through the other line, right? There are some places where the tubes merge, which of course makes sense, and arguably would it have been difficult to configure the safety system? I'm going to talk about that too. To check whether there's a ship on the other side, which I actually did.
Next stop,
but I didn't want it
Willow.
going actually through. I think that looks a bit weird. I know that the fact that there's a tube, that two tubes intersecting, is already weird, but I didn't want to make it more weird. Like I could have went in Blender and calculated, done this and split it like merge it and stuff. But I don't want to spend time on that. Yeah, very small speed limit for going downwards. It's arbitrary because I felt like it, but yeah. Anyway, you can already see the world starting to like fall apart more as we're going outwards from the origin, which is not 0, 0, 0. Yeah, you can start to see it flickering. Maybe what I'll do is actually scale the objects down individually, scale down the splines, and just remove most of the multiplication code and division stuff, and only applied it to like the speed. So the world would still be 0.1x scale in theory, but the objects would be 0.1x scale individually instead of it being parented to the world root. That would also make it easier to load new scenes, probably. If I were to make new lines, that like I wanted to make it so you would go to a hub station, like when you get near the hub station, it loads all the neighboring lines, and when you leave the hub, it unloads the unused lines, basically. So I would have wanted like maybe 10 simultaneously driven ships, like automatically driven ships. Yeah, I wanted to make different types of ships. Like this is a passenger ship that stops at every station, and there would be fast ships which would skip like smaller stations, I guess, less significant stations, and inter-hub stations would only stop at very significant and mostly hub stations, and not necessarily just hubs, but like the more important ones, the more important stations. Okay. Yeah, the thruster. I would have wanted the visual thrusters to work and like extend when the ship lifts off, and like kind of face backwards when the ship is going. The ship is going forwards, and then when the ship is going backwards, it would face in the front direction. And speaking of that, the splines have to be oriented certain way. So like bastard up south is forward, and if you want to go backwards, you gotta go in a negative way, basically. Because in the real world, you're on a track, and then the wheels spin, and that moves the train in the direction the wheels are spinning it. Kind of. So like if you set forward, it goes forward. If you set it backwards, it goes backwards, relative to how you view it. So it's not absolute, right? But in game engines, it is absolute.
Apple below.
Since I have to define a forward direction on parts, I would have a really, really difficult time calculating the time on the spline. Like, okay, we're going forwards. Forwards is dictated by the track or the tube. In the real world, forward can be either way, right? Like it doesn't matter. So, yeah. Yeah. This means that it's going to be pretty challenging, and it was a bit challenging to make it so you could switch or like go onto a different tube. It's not very implemented yet because you can't go backwards. But yeah, basically what I do is when the ship enters a segment, that can make it so a different segment is connected to another different segment. So it like changes what the next segment is for another segment. And in this way, we can also change the previous segment So that's how switches work essentially. And you can make turnouts this way, which is not very great. Yeah, because I didn't feel like implementing like a length system that like a switch system. Like you would need two switches, one that merges in. So like, okay, how do I explain this? So there's a segment that merges into a different segment forwards, and you have to split the segment in some places that like there's a main segment and then there's a side segment that stems out of it. Stem. Anyways, yeah. So that's a bit more difficult. I have considered it, but I didn't take that approach. It was easier to just assign the thing. It's like the next one, then the next one knows its previous one. Like the missile knows where it is because it knows where it isn't, kind of thing. That's not relevant. Whatever. This is becoming a very long video. Yeah, you can see tubes out there. That is the fast lane, pretty much. Yeah, back to FPS a bit. Unity calls out the meshes very well, so maybe I would have some FPS like benefits if I made an optimized cooling system, but I did try it and ended up just disabling it because it actually made the FPS worse. By checking every time if the player's camera is close enough, I could disable the mesh render or enable it, and it impacted the FPS quite a bit because there are how many segments? Many. Like, you look at how many. Oh crap. Why can't I hear the sound? There's something funky going on. Whatever. So if you look at how many splines there are, 190. And if you do some distance checks, and for all of those, maybe not every frame, it might actually be less beneficial and to just have the build, like the actual Unity, the universal renderer pipeline handle it for you. Okay. I really wanted to show this part, but I mean, I can just, where's the ship module? Copy. We're gonna set that actually, and then paste. Frick. Oh, flip. This is bad. This is horrible. This is horrible. Okay. Let's try that again. But I'm gonna edit this first and then copy it and send it back. Okay, player plays based. Yeah, we're gonna go up now. Actually, we are going up to kind of go around the main line. So, yeah, rendering. I just leave it up to the renderer pipeline to call things, because again, there are millions, if not billions, of vertices in the entire world. And you wouldn't really want to render all of that at once, would you? There are very many games that do that, but for this project, that sounds horrendous. Okay, back to the optimizations. The splines. I'm not even sure the code, but basically, if you use spans are a very cool .NET feature. You can improve FPS, because if you're like at 20x speed, we're doing a lot of calculations, and the unoptimized version was running at very, very bad frames. Like at 20x speed, sometimes one frame took 2 seconds to render. I have a GTX 1050, so that's horrible compared to this performance. Why is that? Like, how can the frames be so bad? Now, you might hear some game devs talking about reduce allocations, and people talking about GC in general and the .NET scope. Like, if you have heap allocations, I know I'm talking about a lot of tech jargon, but I don't really know how to simplify it. If you have a lot of heap allocations, that puts pressure on the GC, slowing down the project, or like the system, I guess. That was a horrible way to put it. Anyway, so yeah, garbage collection has impact, and it definitely showed. It has a lot of impact, especially if you're doing heap allocations every frame. Pro tip: don't do that. So use structs where you can in high performance scenarios, like spline calculations. Just don't have a method that allocates memory every time you call get sample. That is horrible. That is horrendous. And I think the author didn't realize it. And I might make an effort to reach out to them and tell them, hey, the performance could be improved by a lot, and it's actually pretty simple to improve performance. So yeah, another optimization I did on my end specifically is, instead of sampling every fixed update, I set a flag in fixed update, and it was updated. So that if you're on a very low frame rate, basically, it only calls the update location, which actually samples the curve once, and then in update, which always comes after fixed update, it clears that flag. So in the first fixed update, we place the ship where it's supposed to be, and then in the next fixed updates, the subsequent fixed updates don't sample the curve, which is an I was about to say a really fancy word. It's an extraordinary performance improvement. So I'm talking like maybe 10x improvement in FPS. Like something like it was 10 FPS to like 70 to 80, so more like a 7 to 8x increase. But even then, it's just bonkers. Like, holy crap, yeah. Anyways, splines are generally a bit expensive, but if you actually optimize it properly to not have heap allocations every frame, then it's not that horrible. Like, again, I have 300 samples per segment, which is fairly accurate for the modules not to be too like disconnected. Because I didn't have time to or the mental capacity. Oh, there's you fighting. Oh my god. The mental capacity to make accordions work like properly, that actually connect to the modules seamlessly. Anyways. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna show code. I know it's been over an hour and I've been yapping for a lot. There's just so much to talk about. So yeah. Also, the skybox has some Easter eggs, and if you can spot them, good job, I guess. But I'm not gonna show the entire skybox because I'm lazy. You can just play the game, you know. Again, it's nowhere near complete. I'm planning to update it sometime. I'm just tired. I'm tired. Yeah. So, what else can I yap about before diving into the code?
Uncle.
Yeah. Basically, the safety system, Cosmos. I think I really cooked with names. Cosmos, as in, I don't even know what the abbreviation is, honestly. Oh my god. Control-oriented safety measurement overseeing system. I think that's the acronym. Control, as in I wanted to control points placed. Oh my god. Are we stupid? The doors just don't open. That's fun. You know what? Let's just go. Yeah, you can press mark departure, like mark ready for departure, if even if you're in auto driving mode. So yeah.
Next stop, Lake City Garden.
Okay. Yeah, the menu is very simple. I thought about it. Okay. Back to like splines. Making turnouts is not that simple. It's doable, and also quite a bit of a challenge when you would have an ability to go around. Like you would go around the map, and you would have to go onto the same tube dock. I call the platforms docks. It's, you know, ship docks, you know?
Lake City Garden.
Yeah. So the solution is just don't let the player go onto a tube that would be bidirectional from a non-math, non-simulation perspective, right? Yeah, I didn't feel like doing that. And also, if I did end up doing that, the challenge would be to flip the direction of the tube, or like in the module, somehow do some black magic
Next stop, Armored Vineyard.
to go inversely, which actually might be easier than managing it on the tube level. So like basically it would know, okay, we're merging onto this tube that is different from our reverse state. So then we're just gonna invert stuff. But I don't really like that. Like the idea of having to make something like that, because it takes time to implement. Yeah, I was just fully logged in. I didn't spend my free time pretty much in any different way other than working on this project. So I was just coding. I spent more time in Unity probably than I did in Rider, and I spent like maybe 10 hours in Blender. At most 10. It's more like 6 maybe. But yeah, the 50 something, 55, maybe 54 hours I spent doesn't include the audio processing. So I had to cut up the audio, like the announcements, you know. Audacity has this really cool feature called trim silence, which just trims the silence. The name speaks for itself. If you have a long silence segment, then you can just automatically cut that down to a preset amount of, like a specific set amount of time, and it does that for all the silence segments, so you don't have to do that much work, I guess. Honestly, it wouldn't take that much work to just cut up the samples from very isolated, I guess, parts. But it was actually like 3 seconds to trim the silence, so not that big of a deal. And it was easier to cut them up this way because I didn't have to navigate between the empty sections. So, yeah. Why are we still here? Just to suffer. Am I actually gonna show the entire route? I don't think so. It would be funny because the whole route is like an hour. Actually, I can just show it.
Next stop, Uncle Mike.
An hour and 22 minutes. No. Yeah. Math. Okay. So. Audio. Yeah. It was a bit difficult to find, like, good enough, at least, recordings, because there are places where there's crickets chirping, crickets creaking. I wanted to say it. Okay. Like, no birds chirping, no crickets creaking. No people yapping too loudly for them to, like, interfere, like, actually duck the volume of the recording too much if I denoise it. And there's no announcements at the stations at the time, no loud cars passing by. So yeah, it's not as simple as going to your local train station and recording every single type of train that there is, because not every train goes the way you live, right? Yeah. So it was a bit exhausting to search through my recording again. And okay, this is good, but there's too much wind. Okay, let's find another one. Okay, this would be so cool if only there wasn't another train that interfered. So yeah, it took quite a bit to find them and then cut them up in a way that it's actually usable. I don't have sounds for Ross yet, only the outside arrival and departures, because I just don't have onboard recordings of KISS trains. It's crazy. I do have maybe 3, but those are nowhere near usable enough to the point that I could merge them. So let's look at the prefabs. Ships, Ross. Yeah, I just reused Flash models. It's basically the same thing. I wanted to make it a double-decker, but I really did not have the time for it. Yeah. You can see all the audio sources, the doors, the thing, like beep thingies. Yeah. The alarms, yeah. So, kisses are cool. Can't believe I'm saying this in a YouTube video. Okay. So you can see that these two buttons are a bit far apart. That might be the cause of the problem. That the collider is just not colliding. Raycast, come on. Anyways, yeah, I might as well just show the code at this point. Like I'm just yapping. So Blender, I didn't export FBX models. Only once. Meshes. Yeah, only the tube is here, and like a very, oh, you can't even see anything from that. Very early.
Next stop, STEM Gardens.
Flash model. Like, I just ended up using blend files because they're easier to. It's literally just drag and drop. But when I went to deploy, Blender wasn't found. I used Game CI. That's the GitHub action, and also like a kind of a GitHub organization. I don't know how to call it. Like people who collaborate in a Dockerized game editor environment. So like they build Docker images of the editors, like Unity. I think they also have Godot and maybe Unreal Engine. I'm not sure, but basically on the docs there's an example of how to like create your own Docker image. Keep in mind that I barely know anything about Docker. Yes, I'm a software developer as a hobby, and software devs tend to use Docker, but I don't. Yeah. So I was like, okay, do I have to hard code the commands to run the image that I get from the previous run of the GitHub action? Because I don't know really how Docker works, and I just like how do I apply this document information, like the information in the documentation, to a Docker image? Like how to make a Docker image, and it's literally just Docker build. Yeah, I need a pretty basic Docker file that is literally in the documentation, so I can just copy paste it basically. I tried. Okay, I was like, what if I run apt install Blender? Like, surely that just works. No, it doesn't work. You fucking thought. Yeah, but basically it downloads the archive from blender.org and then extracts it and adds it as the path to the path, adds the directory to the path, and that's the image basically. And the base image is of course the original Docker image from Game CI. So yeah, it's actually pretty nice. So I run things on WSL, and Docker integration only works on default WSL, so I had to switch this default distros because I would normally use Ubuntu, but I wanted to test something else on Fedora, so I just ended up using the basically unused Fedora WSL instance for building the game project, because I didn't want to build it locally, and then you can't upload that to GitHub pages, and it would look really shady if I just copied the files from my own device, right? It's like I was just, when I wasn't home, I was thinking about how the flip do I make this Docker thing work? Like, how do I build my custom image? Do I need to make my own GitHub action? Do I need to fork the game CI action? No, you just build a custom image, and then don't forget the username, because the default username is library.
STEM Gardens.
So it doesn't actually use the custom Docker image unless you specify something slash image name. I had like 7 attempts at rerunning the build. Probably more. You can check on GitHub anyway. And it's not very fun when the build fails. Because either your Docker file is invalid or it just doesn't work. I don't really remember the exact reason. Oh right, permissions. It somehow the permissions
Next stop, stem.
to the work directory aren't set up properly by GitHub Action, the GitHub Actions runner somehow, and it can't delete the work, like the contents of the work directory. It's probably some Unity BS, but like what? I have to log into WSL and sudo rm-rf the work folder. Like, what is happening? Like, it's just sad. It's just sad, honestly. But yeah, that's the reality we live in. And I'm not gonna add sudo rm-rf_work in the GitHub action, the workflow. Okay? That's not happening. So yeah. Also, another thing I faced is onValidate in Unity. Gets called when the component is enabled and when a value changes in the editor. Now, I thought that means in the build, it still gets called when the component is enabled, and turns out it isn't. So I instead just call onValidate in awake. So it actually assigns the next to, like, okay, I assign the next to in the editor, and then it caches the has next value and assigns the next of the previous segment, right? So if has next is false, and the ship won't be able to go on to the next segment, which should mean the ship crashes when a module intersects with the other module.
Stem.
But I haven't implemented that. So I haven't implemented crashing. Yeah, it's sad. So can we open the doors now? You can see the ship kind of deteriorating as we go further and further from the origin. Also, text mesh pro. Each text character is its own separate mesh. So if you look closely, it's flickering a lot. So if I were to render this out on a render texture, it wouldn't be as bad, and maybe it would be more optimal to display the same texture on each display.
Next stop, turpentine.
Instead of having each text mesh per object per module, per module. But okay, that's just how it is. The issue would be to place the. Actually, can you render to? I don't know if you can assign a canvas to one specific camera only. I think you can. The last time I tried, it didn't really work well. So maybe it's a skill issue on mine. But yeah, otherwise I would have to place the canvases sort of like a line that extends based on how many ships are loaded. And yeah. Oh shoot, if you look really closely, there's the reference map. But you won't really see much of that in the recording. Anyways, and with stations, we have the station. The stations, like, these are scriptable objects, so I can specify the announcement and which lines it is on. Initially, he would think, okay, why don't you use strings as station IDs? Because it's one, you can assign scriptable objects in the editor. So like, if I have a route, I can assign it instead of having to type it every time. And if I mess up the typing, then that's not gonna work properly, right? So by having this, it's easier. Also, I can include additional information like the announcement that is played when the ship gets near the station or when it leaves the station. Basically, it works like after you depart, it waits 10 seconds and then plays the next stop announcement. And when it gets within 100 meters of the station, it plays the this is stop, like just the stop name right now, but like where we are, right? Okay. Also, I love some of the station names. You can check the GitHub repo if you really want to dive in. You can even clone the project if you want. I honestly don't really recommend doing that, but you can. So if you want to try it out, like build it in Unity or like add new lines, it's possible, but it doesn't work real well, and you gotta know all the caveats that I won't explain in this video because this video is already way too long, an hour and 30 minutes. Honestly, I'm just a yapper. Yeah. A devlog. This is not really a devlog. This is just flat out words at this point. I don't want to edit the video. You know, that takes a lot of effort. Okay. You know what? Enough. Let's see the Ross ships in action. Well, not in action, but Ross assembly. There we go. So he has a really nice, fairly nice, not exactly clean departure sound, but it's like okay. All right, let me just increase the volume and mute myself. Also, the door sounds are the same because I was too lazy to remove. Yeah, this you could hear that it's not exactly consistent. Welcome to frame rate. I could have written a custom audio filter to make the beeps like actually consistent, like sample perfect instead of okay, decrease the wait time by delta time and then check if it's less than 0. Yeah, like 0.14 something seconds. Oh, yeah, I wanted to show the departure sound as well from outside because there's no onboard sounds yet. Let me just doors. Get this much. It's not exactly the most realistic thing, but it's fine. It's fine. Let's go to George Factory, and then we'll listen to the arrival sound. I'm just gonna mute myself again. Yeah, very shitty thing, in my opinion. Not as good as the Flirt, I guess, because the raw ship is longer. And also, it's supposed to accelerate slower, but I didn't change that because I forgot. Yeah. And you can see jarred the exit. The modules really got disconnected. That's because I made it that way. But there's no onboard audio for us, unfortunately. But yeah, basically oh, that's horrible.
Next stop, Yard Saint.
Basically, the module's middle, the center of it, gets sampled. Like, it's not like the module is pulled by the other module. No. That would take way too much time or like brain power for me to make. So I just had the modules literally next to each other with no connector or accordion or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Okay, code time. Actually, before that, I'm going to show Audacity. This is the like the air pressure release. Yeah, this is when the the ship lands or lifts off. And you can see these gaps in the spectrum. Like, what are these? Those are other sounds that I wanted to remove. And actually, it sounds pretty realistic. So, like these are like bass and like the button being pressed, like the door opener button, right? And then like I don't know, like there's stuff in the bass that I just there and they don't belong there, so I just remove them. Yeah. Okay, and then maybe like outside departure. Yeah, like vocals. The vocals part is was here. There were some people yapping kind of quietly, but you could still hear it. So just denoised it and then took the denoised part here, and then the original recording is here. But the yapping part is muted. And what else do I want to show? I think that's it. And then we have FL. We have the beeps, like how they were supposed to sound like on Kisses. Oh, I have reverb here. Hold on. Yeah, something like this. And if you're in Clarity, you will hear something like this. A lot. It's of course quieter because maybe you're not literally next to the ship or train in this case. But yeah. Yeah. Basically, oh, hold on. Is it this recording? Yeah. So you can see here are the beeps. So you can kind of distinctly see the beep part, like these little streaks here, lines, And if I just remove everything but those, we get this FL command without the reverb. No. Anyways, yeah. So you just isolate those and boom. Like I don't think there's an AI, like some kind of artificial intelligence model, that would separate the sound you describe based on a prompt. I think that's not really possible to do. And even like that AI use is just a bit iffy for me. Like vocal reduction, like vocal isolation, I think that's fine. A lot of people use it, and it's okay, I think. But being able to tell me, okay, take just this sound, that might be too advanced. But yeah, in this case, it's pretty easy to separate the beep because it has very distinct and constant frequencies. So you can just take those, and it's basically there's nothing else going on. So unless people are yapping, in which case you're a bit in a bit of a pickle. But even like speech is like below 2K hertz, I think. So this is pretty distinct. Okay. This is a long 2-hour video, I guess. Yeah, let's look at the safety system first. It's called Cosmos, and we have a very rather basic system. So we have safety insurer, which is the base class for each segment's safety. Oh, and also I should mention how I made the tubes is not just I make all of these separately. Like that would actually be crazy. Like, okay, this is one, but the rest, say like turpentine to Adapguard. No, like that stem to turpentine. This is 18 segments. There's no way I'm manually creating 18 splines for just two nodes per spline. So what I did, I made the full spline. It's actually pretty straightforward to do. Wrong one. So you have the node position, you can drag the node around, and you click one of these boxes to adjust the anchor points. Like it's not disconnected, so if you control this point, you control the other control point as well. But that's fine. It's actually probably easier to make tubes this way, tracks this way. And then once I do that, I just press split, which will create one spline out of each pair of nodes. So yeah. And then the other way is just click offset, which takes each node and then adds the offset times the forward vector of that sample at the node to the node's position and direction, because the direction is absolute, so it's relative to the world and not the node itself. So like ideally, in my opinion, direction would be relative to the nodes. Like if you'd say Z10, and it would go, the direction would be forwards 10 compared to the node instead of being absolute, right? If that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, well, it sucks to be you. Yeah, split it, and then yeah. I also committed the non-split version, so if I have to make any adjustments, I can just use that commit as a reference and then resplit it. It's actually really simple because the next, like I assign the next tube, and then the splitter will auto assign the next tube for each segment, and then the last one will have the next of the station. right, left, right. Yeah. Okay. And I wanted to make like better stations, like something that is vaguely resembling a station at least, and then the major stations would be like fancier. They would have like tilted pillars and stuff. I didn't end up making that. It would have taken a lot of time. So in Blender, yeah, I don't like blending, to be honest. But yeah, performance is nice. In my opinion, at least on the WebGL build. I don't know the FPS, but it runs pretty smoothly, even on mobile, which actually I don't support because I don't have joysticks, like controls. Okay, so like there's is free for it just tells you if the segment is occupied by any modules, and like there's some it's not occupied for you if you're on it, right? So actually I could probably just where do I even call this? I could have just given it the module, honestly. That would be a bit faster. Anyway, in the safety system, like we have a next segment safety, which checks if the next segment is free. A two segment safety, which checks the next two segments in the direction, like if you're going reverse, then it goes backwards, right? We have the tube remapper, and then the exit clear, which are delegating ensures, which just means it does something and then delegates the ensuring check to different type of safety ensure. So yeah. The tube remapper, as I said previously, is what makes it so you can change, like you can make switches with this. Like you go connect tube, and then you connect that tube to a different tube when the module enters this safety ensure. The ensures are tube specific. So if there's no safety, then it will add the next segment safety. Stations have two segment safety, and like regular tubes have next segment safety. We can check tube base, and again, like this is just this is crazy. Look. When the script is loaded, oh, oh, oh. Well, that explains it. I skimmed over that. Oh well. But yeah. That's crazy. Also, I have a custom, like kind of custom Delta system, which just says, like it gives you the Delta time based on the on-scale Delta time times the time scale. Because otherwise, Unity clamps the Delta, like the Delta time, to something like 0.33, like 1/3 maybe. So that would prevent me from speeding up the game in well, in a useful way, I guess. Maybe I don't even need to use, like I don't need to set time scale, and I could just multiply everything by this value, and then we wouldn't have all these frame issues, rendering issues, like when fixed bit gets called more than it should. You realize things after you've completed the thing. That made a lot of sense. Okay, so I could just not set the time scale and instead just have a multiplier here. Okay. So yeah. What did I say? Yeah, that could actually solve other issues. Because I don't use the physics system, so it wouldn't be an issue to like not speed up the physics simulation. Okay. 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 So modules. Let's look at the modules. The ship module has like the basic information like audio bounds, which is just a collider. And also the build tells me it doesn't shadow a different properly. Well, yes, it does. Actually, I can just click this. It has the same name. So why are you stupid? Yeah, these are all like many of these are deprecated. Like collider 2D. Like it's just remove it. Like it doesn't make sense to keep them anymore. Like it's okay. Oh, right, because Unity upgradable. You want to be able to support new projects. Our servers right now. Like old projects, sorry. To upgrade them. Like this is also kind of an issue with .NET because they have to make sure everything remains backwards compatible. Now you can only do that to a certain extent, but if you don't remove legacy APIs, then you will have more time for people to migrate. And if you just keep the legacy APIs, you know, then people won't really face issues other than. Okay, that was a stupid statement. So if you keep the legacy APIs, which delegate or like still work the same way or delegate their behavior to the new API, then you basically don't have breaking changes. Like changes that actually break the code and not the functionality. So like an existing build would still work if you just keep the implementation, right? An existing build doesn't work, but it allows Unity to scan the things you use for upgrading and then change it to get component collider and stuff like that. So what even is this network? Like, okay, what are we doing? Why do these even exist as component? Like, oh my god, actually insane. Okay, Microsoft. Yeah, this is the thing that propels. Yeah. So again, updated false. In update and then fixed update distance. If it's updated, then don't update the location. Don't sample the curve. And an update distance just changes the current distance float based on the current speed times dollar. The current speed has the reverse Boolean. And also, I did this for like the reference map thing, like math, and I did this. Okay, I can't do English anymore. This is almost a 2-hour video already. So, yeah. World dot. Yeah, we have the conversion stuff. And actually, it's probably better if I implement what I said, like just scale the actual object. I tried that, but failed, so I might just need another attempt at doing it. Yeah. basically, you have like a component, like sub-component system. Like the ship assembly gets the immediate children, the modules, and then the modules get all the components in their children. And this is in that much of a performance bottleneck because one, I've run it in the wake, so it's not getting executed multiple times per frame. But yeah, there aren't many game objects nor components in ships. Maybe there's like 200. That's not that big of a number. So yeah, and all the things that depend on the module, all these things are automatically initialized. Like we have an initialize method which sets the parent and the subcomponent like this. We have ship component, module component, and Volter component. Volter. I'm gonna talk about that too. I think I said I'm gonna talk about that, about something, and I still haven't, but I don't remember what. So, oopsies. Anyway, Volter is the safety system. No, that's Cosmos. Volter is the route management system and display system. So Volter knows the route, the current route, and the current stop, and then all the components can use this information, right? Volter controller, yeah. So we all have the Volter components, which Volter controller is on the ship, and then the modules can have their own Volter components that are not module components. So let me exit service with set the route to null, the stop to null. So I have to call notify route changed first, like before update stop, because otherwise the stuff would be null and these things would break. Okay, they wouldn't work properly. Also, I left pattern matching. Okay, just absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, yeah, Volter. I wanted to make like a route selector that allows you to like scroll through the list of available routes, depending on the stop you're at, and then just go. But I, for once, don't have more than one route in use that is actually usable, and two, I don't have the canvas, like the system, to select routes. Again, here are the ship states. Wait, this is 5. This is not 6. Okay, I'm actually stupid. What else do I want to show? Yeah, the optimizations of spline mesh. So, is there anything here that I want to show? And that's not that important. Actually, maybe this. Like, the acceleration and deceleration sounds start proportional to the current speed over max speed. So you don't hear the acceleration start from the very beginning if you're at going at 120 kilometers per hour and then start accelerating, right? Like that would sound weird, but yeah. I love pattern matching. Okay, if you don't like this code, if you don't like how this code looks, copium. Okay, get some copium. Yeah, I also wanted to make like collision detection for the doors, like when you're standing in the door, it wouldn't close on you, but I ended up not making it yet. Also, shut up, writer. Interaction control is very simple. It just it recasts, like, and then checks if there's an interactable component. Yeah, insane. Also, we have time only, a custom implementation, because .NET Standard doesn't have it. And Unity is still on .NET Standard. Not actually .NET Standard, but yes. But okay, it's very complicated. Okay, they are planning to upgrade, and there's some progress on upgrading to modern.NET, but it has been delayed. So, that's all I can say. We have the time on the drawer, which is funny, because for some whatever reason, timestamp.tryparse with the specific format doesn't work. And I can just set the value on the time only instance, because then it doesn't get applied. If I do property.mod mark, what the flip? Okay, so I just have to set the value. Yeah, that was the issue. Okay, let's move on to the optimization part. Spline mesh. Bezier spline. No, cubic Bezier curve. So I changed the step count to 300 because it would have looked very, very like choppy, I guess. If I only had 60, the default step count. Like you would have clearly been able to tell when like the modules would they would go in a jagged line basically instead of smoothly. So first, I don't think I've optimized anything here, but there are some crazy things. Okay, let's look at curve sample. Let's look at the history of this. Okay, let's just look at this diff. So here, the biggest issue was that they had a object equality check, which is just really sad, honestly. Why would you do this? Why not just object is curve sample? Like, are we for real? And then this operator just calls that check. Like, that's just like, what is happening? This is bad. This is really bad. Like, why is this bad? Because structs are value types, and if you want to use them as an object, as a reference type, you gotta box it. Therefore, GC, that allocates on the heap, that allocates memory on the heap. Which means GC time. And then when you have hundreds, thousands, or even millions of calls to this, well, performance is not going to be nice. No, like I was using the deep profiler, and then, again, it was just absolutely bonkers performance. I'm talking like maybe 20 FPS at 1x speed and sub 1 FPS at 20x speed. And it is not only caused merely by this, also because of the fixed update thing, which I probably will change. But yeah, oh my god, this just made me so sad when I saw this. Also, the lerping. It's not actually that bad. Like if you check this. Are we serious? So, I optimized this by calling lerp on clamp because I just saw so many math.lerp calls in the profiler. Like, okay, or like math.clamp. We don't need that. Okay, if we're on the spline, the t is not going to be less than 0 or greater than 1. You already do that check elsewhere. And then here, the vector 3.magnitude is normalized. Check this. Like it calls another method. And method calls are overhead. Slight overhead, but yeah. And then magnitude, another bit of overhead. And then whatever this is, overhead. Like it checks if it's pretty much 0. But yeah. And then the division, which is another method call, which Again, another method call for creating a new vector, which you like. It's like one vector created, two vectors created, instead of just one. Actually, no. Actually no. Never mind. My bad. But okay, we're creating a vector anyway. But the point is, I didn't want this overhead, and I didn't want this overhead. So yeah, I just do this. Crazy. And other performance, like let's just show this in the git log. Okay, this commit actually like made the performance faster by 6 or 7 times because of this. Obviously, I changed it to be even more optimal. But yeah. Oh yeah, the issue was I actually moved the shipping update, which I've talked about before, is not good because you can't move. Anyway, ship module. I forgot to call awake, which meant it didn't send the transform. Yeah. And then what else do we have? This micro optimization kind of, which like, okay, this allocates memory, the lambda allocates memory, and then getting the enumerator also allocates memory. Like, I should have changed this to a list, or like an array, but yeah. So this still has a bit of overhead that I should not have. Wait a minute. Okay, whatever. Yeah, but some fairly simple optimizations like caching the transform, because I don't want to call the engine every single time I get the transform. Oh, the Isner station is actually 200 meters and not 100. Oops. Yeah. The movement controller. We cache the last position so it doesn't calculate it every time, only after we've moved. And yeah, this, again, it's an insanely big performance increase. Like, okay, maybe you call fixed update 5 times at like very horrible frame rates, and that really shows like there are hundreds or thousands of calls being made. So yeah, I also, oh, it's 30 by default, whatever. Yeah, also samples. List. I don't know if the get method has any more overhead. Actually, it probably does because it gets the thing from the array, like the internal array. And here, spans. Spans are cool. So basically, span is a contiguous block of memory. An optimized struct that just wraps the array. And again, it's a struct so you don't allocate memory while you're calling it. And yeah, spans are single instruction, multiple data compatible. So that also allows the CPU to like CPU. I don't know. Okay, I'm not a low level person, but it allows for big optimizations to happen at the CPU level, I think. It's like this loop can get called multiple times, pretty much at once, which isn't actually true, but you get the point. More performance. Okay. So yeah, I just saw the like list get count, like get item calls, and like what is happening? gc.alloc taking 600 milliseconds in one frame. What is happening? Maybe it was like 100. I can't really recall it instantly. You know what? Let's check out this. And let's check out this revision. Oh yeah. Unity does this thing called where it changes font assets just because it can. Like any asset, sometimes it just it feels like it's like in the like I built the player once and it just changed the like time scale something. Like there was some flip precision stuff happening in the meta file, like the asset file. It's like, why did you change that? You had no reason to change the editor settings. The time manager. Why? Why did it have to be changed from 0.2 to 0.199999999? Like, are we serious right now? Let's see the performance. Yeah, you can see it took quite a bit to load the scene, but that's kind of inevitable. It's still present in the current version. What is this? Do we have the automatic driver? I can't recall. I'm gonna disable you. There is one. Well, then why don't we just go? You can already see the FPS being stupid because the editor, like the inspector, gets redrawn every frame. Thanks Unity for being smart and stuff.
Welcome aboard the ship to Ashtabad South. Please keep in mind that smoking is prohibited on the ship. We wish you a pleasant journey. Next stop, Lake City Garden.
100 FPS. Crazy. Maybe because there are less splines. Like I didn't have the line built fully. Let me just attach the debugger actually. At this point, I might as well show them. That is not the correct one. Can I move this? Okay, we're just stupid. Yeah. Look at this. Look at this. Player loop, update scene, a fixed update. Okay, physics. I don't care about the physics. Run behavior update. Spline mesh tiling. What? Why is this? Okay, that's fair. Actually, there's no like performance penalty. Hello? Where's fixed update? Okay, so you can see it's allocating quite a bit of memory. How is this allocating memory? I have no idea. I don't have deep profiling here. Okay, whatever. 384 bytes that you don't need to allocate. Let's close the profiler. And then like put a breakpoint here, unpause, and time scale equals 20. This better be horrible.
Lake City Garden.
All right, you know why? Because I didn't have a million, billion, trillion things. Like I didn't commit it, but Can we exit play mode? So, Unity, shut up. So I have this on like 3,000, which is a lot. I'm just gonna demonstrate. Back to Unity. Oh my god, recompiling takes a million years. So yeah. And now you can see it not being very happy. My computer is screaming. And boom, the frames have dropped by over 10. Not anymore. Ready for departure. Maybe the overhead was caused by the deep profiling. No. There we go. So time scale 20. Rolling window.
Welcome aboard the ship to Astrodub South. Please keep in mind that smoking is prohibited on the ship. We wish you a pleasant journey.
Yep, that was it. That was it. It's
Next
over.
stop, Lake City Garden.
When it's not moving, it's okay, but when it is moving, oh god.
Lake City Garden.
You can see just completely passes by the station because the frame
Next
drop.
stop, Armored Vineyard.
Check the profiler.
Armored Vineyard.
And then check here. Look at this. Update scene. 281 kilobytes allocated. I wonder why that is. We got 200 ms for updating all the thrusters, and out of that, like, the GCL doesn't even take much time. But all those calls to list.getCount and get item and vector functions, they add up. They really add up. Can I just... What happens if I do that while I'm in play mode? I think I just... Oh, I didn't crash it. Okay. So yeah. Horrible. You don't want that. And of course, it didn't help that it gets called every fixed update, and less frames equals more fixed update, meaning it's like a what do you call this? Like a perpetual loop, basically. Oh, the worse you are doing, the worse you will get. Basically. Hurry up, please. Yeah, calculating all those meshes takes a bit, but then calculating every single curve sample on probably like over 100 spline segments, not very fun. Yeah, the profiler is not really helping here. Maybe because I have the rider debugger attached. There we go. Go away for a second. Where are the frames? And this is what happens when you deep profile. Your frames get annihilated. Ready for deploy. Why aren't we recording?
Welcome aboard the ship to SpaceTransit South. Please keep in mind that smoking is prohibited on the ship. We wish you a pleasant journey.
What is happening? Yeah, this is the Unity experience. So if you ever wanna use Unity, maybe don't. I've heard good things about Sandbox, like &box. Maybe try it. It's based on Source, like it's built on top of Source, I think, with C# support. That is similar to Unity engine and like mainstream.
Next stop, Lake City Garden.
There we go. It only took like a 10-second frame drop. Okay, so now if you inspect the frames, you can see Big's behavior update is still the winner with 6 ms per frame in the fixed update location. I was like, oh my god, this is a sample. Eight calls. 17,000 calls. So you shouldn't use a numerator if you can. It adds 1.5 ms. That's a lot. It's like in normally like in for web development sakes, you probably wouldn't optimize a for each to for loop because you just don't need to. But in this context, performance really matters. And holy crap, look at the memory allocated, like being used. Actually, that doesn't even matter. Oh, there's so much texture memory. Whatever. Oh yeah, move next. That's a lot of stuff. Then get the numerator again. Allocating memory. Lerp. Math.clamp. Okay. This is fine. This is fine enough. Normalize, like you can see like all the little calls add up. And then if we resume, I guess that works too. Right. Let's unpause. Yeah. Yeah, this is not exactly good. As you can see.
Next stop, Lake City Garden.
I think I'm not recording in 1080p actually, so you want to see this 0.7 f/0.5. Let's just end the misery right there. 0.3. Like this is absolutely bonkers. barely exits play mode. Like you see total use memory, it just ramps up really quickly. Like GC has to do a lot of work to force unused things out of memory. Like this is also caused by having way too many curve samples. But yeah, if you look at it, this is doing cause of the issue. 1.2 seconds. Absolutely crazy. And an update distance. How? All right, getting the fixed delta takes. How is that even possible? Welcome to engine calls. Welcome to Unity. I'm going to the C++ runtime for half of the things. And then you see, get in where, like, it's just string.mem set. What even is that? Getting type information. Like, whatever. And the profiler is just not happy about this. See, move next. 3.5 million calls. So yeah, method called overhead is real. And normally I complain about the nanoseconds when I see other people like discussing code like in forums, and I was like, okay, can you just not do that and use a different way to optimize the code? Like I mostly tell people very, very simple optimizations, like no-brainers. But honestly, using for each over for loop is actually pretty much no overhead, except here. And in newer .NET, it can actually be faster to use for each instead of a for loop. Yeah. You can see curve sample.lerp also contributing quite a bit to the frame time, 14 milliseconds. But if you say, like, it's very minuscule compared to the overall things. Like, it's just diabolical, honestly. But yeah, I'm gonna work on other things probably, and yeah, that was quite a yapping session. Again, you can play the game. It's on GitHub pages. I didn't feel like registering for itch, so that's why I don't have it there. You cannot download it, unfortunately, but you can build it if you're willing to download Unity, unless you have it already. So yeah, 6000.2.10.1f is the editor version. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, 2.5 hours. God damn. Is there anything I want to go over? Let me just scan through the commit history. In the project, like you can see, I started it last Tuesday. Very simple. There are a lot of commits. Also, tweak project settings. I had to disable compression, like web compression. Otherwise, it wouldn't work on GitHub pages because it doesn't support broadly compression. Broadly, is it broadly? I'm not sure. Some form of compression. Yeah, you just have to deploy it uncompressed. Oh, I wanted to drop a hint reference. Well, if you made it this far, you've earned it, so yeah. Stadler. And that's a bit of a hint, yeah. What else did I want? I get attributes like removing this from linguist because it would show as 40% shader lab on GitHub. But yeah, I was just fully logged in on this project. It was honestly pretty nice to have the motivation to just work on a project that I'm ambitious about. So yeah, but yeah, it does lead to burnout. It does lead to being tired. Yeah, honestly, I didn't really think of many other things while I was building this, like in general about other things. I was actually super logged. Seriously, I should have spent time on other things, unnecessarily software things. But I wanted to get this to a usable state, and again, it's nowhere near the level I wanted it to be. But it's fine. I can just work on it later. But there's the reference. That wasn't the hint I was gonna drop. But yeah. Yeah, when I deployed, like there were issues like first off Blender not working, which meant the ship itself, like the body of the ship wasn't there, so you couldn't stay on it. It would just fall through. And then again the onValidate not being called. It was funny. It was funny. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, the hint would be, I think, line 1 is actually line 1 in the real world. So there's your hint. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day or night, and don't spend 46 hours of it constantly. Your body might not like it. You will be tired probably. And keep in mind that I don't drink energy drinks and I don't drink coffee, so I honestly was just awake because I absolutely wanted to get this on. Again, like at like 3 a.m. I was spending. Oh my god, this is not going to be done by 6 a.m. Like at like maybe 8 p.m. on Sunday, I was like, okay, well, I'm not sleeping today. Oh yeah, that one too. I don't know why that happens. Let me show you the Blender file, I guess. Actually, no. I decided not to because I said so. So yeah, spline mesh can be optimized, definitely. And again, like the fixed update being called multiple times per actual frame is just absolutely horrible, but that's how it works and you have to adapt to it. Yep. And sometimes I just forgot to commit some of the files, so I just push them later in a different commit like this. So yeah. Oh well. I just love the Cosmos system. It's such a cool name. Like, I honestly think I could do the next Flash ROS. Okay, that's not really spacey, but Cosmos and Flash are just amazing. And Volter, which is, oh, this is the hint I wanted to say. It's based on Voltron. Not display, but a passenger information system creating, that's English. So a company, an American company that specializes in creating passenger information systems, mostly on onboard systems that inform passengers about the next stop and other stuff. So yeah. Again, thank you for watching and bye bye.